Hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Adler, continuing my video series following up my book, Why I'm Right. This is chapter 13. Haven't named it yet, but we're going to talk a little bit about current events in regard to the craziness on television, on Facebook, on mainstream media, news, whatnot, where we seem to have reached a level of fatal stupidity and ignorance and some dangerous talk and violence going on in our country and in our on our airwaves and in social media, to a point where it's almost impossible to separate. It's all crap. It's all garbage. And I'm not doing the whiteboard. I'm not doing notes. This is just a rant in response to this continuous and constant badgering, beating the dead horse that the liberals are doing against the right, and the feckless, ridiculous, ninny-type responses that the right very often seems to be giving back to push back against the lies and the deceit and the revisionist history perpetrated by the left, not just now, but all time, at least as far as our country is concerned. And frankly, I've really had it. I see people I know on Facebook posting things that are so ignorant and so wrong and so evil in its very, and so obviously so in its nature, that you just scratch your head and go, are they that stupid? Are they that ignorant? Are they that obliged to meet and parrot and follow lemming-like to this agenda and to this party and this ideology, that they cannot see what's right in front of them? It's incredulous. I can't explain how somebody with a brain gets there. This attempt to tell the world that, and they've been doing it for decades now, but now more than ever perhaps, to try to tell the world that people on the right approve, back, pay for, condone, appreciate anything that the Ku Klux Klan, the white supremacy groups, the neo-Nazis, or any other disgusting group has going on right now. It is ludicrous, and it is chock full of complete ignorance. Or they know what they're doing. Which leads me to try to explain where this is coming from. Now, look, historically, whether you want to call it Democrat, Republican, left, right, what have you, liberal, conservative, I don't care. As I've been saying in many videos, it's not that my side, the right side, is pure as the wind-driven snow. We made our mistakes, but we're pikers compared to what the left has done. Absolute pikers compared to the crap they have perpetrated on humanity, on Americans, on the country itself. There are two and only two types of leftists: the ignorant and the malicious intenders. The ignorant are the ones who are blind to the fact, who do not know, simply do not have the knowledge about the history of the Democrat Party, which we have gone over many times. They are ignorant of the fact that the Democrat Party is the only party of the two major parties that ever owned slaves. They are ignorant of the fact that the Democrat Party and all leftists, for the most part, chose to purposely block the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which gave the blacks in this country their freedom, their citizenship, and their right to vote. They blocked women's rights to get them the right to vote in the turn of the last century. They were all for, in many regards, I won't say 100% of them, but many of them, this is where it comes from, it came from the left, the eugenics, which was an attempt to curtail the birth rate of blacks so they would not ever reach a large percentage of the population. They were all for abortion, which when it really started kicking in was a means to curtail the black population, which had started to grow. They're all for blocking civil rights bills in the 1950s and the 1960s. They were all for blocking the schoolhouses so black children couldn't go to public schools even after the law was passed. They're the ones that paid for fire hoses to be turned towards marchers in the 50s and 60s. These were not Republicans that did this. Willfully ignorant, or not willfully ignorant, but ignorant of the facts. Now, what percentage of the Democrats or leftists are ignorant of the facts? My guess is it's pretty freaking high, because this stuff is not taught. It's not taught in school. It's not taught in textbooks. It's not taught in college. Revisionist history, or history that ignores all the ugly stuff that the left-wing side of the political spectrum don't want to deal with. And now they're continuing it. As if knocking down a statue that they suddenly decided they hate, even though they are fellow Democrats that they're pulling off the pedestals, doesn't mean anything. To them, whitewashing history has become a cottage industry. Ignorant, stupid, or what have you. But then you have the other end. There's only two possibilities. You either know or you don't know. If you don't know, you can kind of get a pass, except why don't you know, and why don't you want to know, and why aren't you trying to know? And once you know, why would you still be a Democrat? The ones that know are maliciously intending to harm people, blacks, minorities, America, its Constitution, everything this country ever stood for and still stands for. Malicious intent to do harm. That's evil, folks. Isn't that the definition of evil? This group, this poor percentage of the Democrat Party or the left side of the political spectrum, know their history and stay Democrat. They know their history and they still continue to lie about history and still continue to lie about who's for what and who created what and who backs what and who's behind what, in order to keep the old talking points going, in order to keep the agenda going. It's sick, and I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up as a right-winger and a Republican, but more succinctly, American first, conservative second, Republican maybe third. I am sick and tired of being broad-brushed, as the liberals love to do with that big-ass paintbrush of theirs, some kind of neo-Nazi, some kind of right-wing nut job, simply because I don't agree with them, simply because I happen to be on the correct right side of the political spectrum, correct in history, historically, and ideologically. Sick of it. There is not a racist bone in my body. There is not a single iota of belief in me that anything that has to do with being against people because of their race, their religion, their creed, their whatever, has any merit in my country whatsoever. And yet, I am consistently, constantly painted, along with all my other right-wing brethren, as the monsters. The exact opposite is true. The ones with the fingers sticking out, pointing at me, have 4 other fingers, or 3 other fingers, pointing back at them. The real monsters are not the right-wingers, they're the left-wingers. And if you don't know this, you're ignorant. And if you do know this, you're evil. Period. Now, why do I say this? Where do you think Hitler got the idea to put poison gas in rooms to kill Jews? From the left. The idea of humanely killing the undesirables of the white culture in order to cleanse the white race was created by the eugenicists on the left in the United States at the turn of the last century. I don't just say this. Hitler actually, and his group actually acknowledged that. They said so. Where do you think Hitler got the idea of exterminating the Jews as a final solution? From the left, who tried to do it to exterminate the blacks as their final solution. He just switched black for Jew or Jew for black, and voila, problem solved. There's a reason the Nazi Party was called the Nationalist Socialist Party. It's left wing. There's a reason Mussolini was a Marxist and had Marxist elements in his government. He was left wing. This is not a mistake. It's on purpose. Fascism is left wing. Period. I don't give a crap what some dumbass with a hood on his head or a cross on it in a circle or a baton and some funky writing on his shirt happens to say, whether he's a right-winger and a march for right or whatever the hell the stupid thing was last week. Don't give a damn. They're just ignorant. Obviously. They don't even know that they're not right-wingers. That does not reflect on the right wing. That reflects on them. They're too stupid because they've never been taught the truth. That everything they stand for, anti-black, anti-American, they pretend they're American, but they're not because nothing they do is American. Even the left wing says this is anti-American. Hello? The great irony of this is you've got the left wing who used to do this is now talking to the left wing who is now doing this. And they're fighting like they're opponents to each other. It's like a person arguing with someone in the mirror. Left versus left. Don't give a damn if they think they're right-wingers. They're not. There's nothing right-wing about white supremacy. We're not the white supremacists, historically or otherwise. There's nothing right-wing about a neo-Nazi. That's just new Nazi. Well, the new Nazi, you can't call yourself a Nazi and suddenly become right-wing. Nazi is left-wing. KKK. You can say I'm a member of the KKK and I'm right-wing. That doesn't make you right. It makes you stupid. Even the left will say these people are stupid. Proving my point. The KKK idiot knew his history. He'd know the KKK was created by the right-wing or the left-wing militant arm of the Southern Democrat wing of the Democrat Party in the 1860s. And have been backing the KKK for over a century. And now, as it turns out, we're learning more about these so-called right-wingers who were in these marches on the side the liberals don't like. We're finding out that a lot of them were embedded left-wingers pretending to be right-wingers. That they were financially and otherwise backed and organized by left-wing organizations. Now, were they backing them because they needed somebody to go out and punch to pursue that lie that the right wing is behind all this stuff? Or are they just completely ignorant of the fact that they're turning everything 180 degrees out of phase? I don't know, and I don't care. Left is left. Wrong is wrong. Anybody who has an ounce of honor in them should know their history. History is routinely thrown into the dustbin by the left because it doesn't suit them. It makes them look bad, and it doesn't help their agenda today, their progressive agenda. There is a direct correlation between the amount of history that is ignored or altered by the left and their culpability in the evil things that they have done and continue to do. Now, to all my friends and relatives who may bother to watch this video, I have one last thing to say before I shut this video off and call this rant to conclusion. If you actually believe in your heart of hearts that the right wing and Donald Trump and anything that's not liberal or progressive is as evil as you think, then I dare you to look into history, to read books like The Big Lie or Liberal Fascism by Jonah Goldberg, The Big Lie by Dinesh D'Souza. I dare you to watch Hillary's America. I dare you to look into the truth once in your freaking lives and know that this passion and this anger and this outrage coming from me is not manufactured. It is real, and it is shared by millions and millions and millions of Americans who are sick to freaking death with being labeled all the things we're being labeled, knowing it's completely false. And it always has been. Before I was born, 100 years, 200 years before I was born, it was false, and it's just as false now. I'm an American first, a conservative second, and a Republican third. Distant third. And what that means is American conservative. And I am for everything you're not for. I'm for the preservation of the Constitution and everything it meant, because it still applies. Believe it or not, it still applies. I am for all the virtues of the founders of this country. I am for all the things the Republican Party has, for the most part, stood for, especially when they are on the conservative side and viewpoints of the great philosophers, Montesquieu, Smith, Burke, even Aristotle. They're on our side, they're right, and they still are right. I'm for freedom and liberty, and anything that fights with that, I'm against. And everything the left is for, everything the progressives are for, everything the Democrat Party today is for, is against America and everything it stands for. Its history proves it, their actions prove it, their words prove it. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing, any of them can say that will change my mind or the mind of everybody who's in their right mind in this country. Next time, we'll have a little bit more calm conversation. Thanks for letting me rant. See you on the next one.